Good evening. My name's Rob Underwood. I am the, along with Dr. Bode, the two that will be teaching umpires this year at the camp. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about umpires and what our expectations are of umpires. In addition to that, a little bit of expectations from a few other people, those of you that are on this call tonight. So the first thing is GHSA's expectations. Well, GHSA has expectations of us that include sportsmanship, sideline etiquette, standardized officiating, and better training of evaluators. Tonight specifically, we're not going to talk about sportsmanship and sideline etiquette, but we are going to talk about standardized officiating and better training evaluators, trained evaluators. So there's really three components of the camps, and that, of course, again, tonight is umpires. The second component of this training is the playoff evaluation board members and their role in evaluating us as we lead into postseason play. And then again, I hope we have many association trainers on this call tonight, because really the message is important, and it starts with you to take the message back to your association, to the umpires that work with you, to make sure that we're as consistent as we can be. 2021 rule changes. There are really no rule changes with the exception of the free blocking zone. The other things that are listed here during camp, James and the other trainers will talk about that in a little bit more detail about the head coaches, and they and only they can address official sideline etiquette and profanity, inappropriate language, and those things. So let's talk a little bit about the free blocking zone. The free blocking zone has changed from last year to this year. Excuse me, the free blocking zone as it relates to blocking below the waist has changed last year to this year. And as y'all can read right here, this is the interpretation that Kevin and others around the state are taking in terms of blocking below the waist. So I'll just read it real quick. You can read it. Regardless of the blocker's stance, the blocker immediately and continuously motion a block of head up on the opponent, an opponent in adjacent gap.
2 miles for exit 71.
That's somebody's GPS.
Yeah, it's Dr. Bode's GPS. He doesn't know how to go to mute, but that's all right. We're going to work through it. So what's the difference between last year and this year? Well, as you read this, last year, in order to block below the waist, we had to have a defensive and offensive lineman. You had to have a free blocking zone in existence. So this year it's a little bit different. You know, last year we talked about it, really for the last 15 years, we talked about if a player was in a 2-point stance that they could not block low. We talked about if they quarterback was in shotgun formation, that it would be nearly impossible for a lineman to block low legally. But this year, the way we're going to officiate blocking below the waist is going to change. So in these two clips right here, you have a player, number 80, who's in a 2-point stance. 93 comes in. Last year, this would have been an illegal block, regardless of whether the quarterback was under center or in a shotgun formation. We were not going to allow them to block using this technique. This year, this is going to be a legal block. In order for this to be legal, it has to be a block that's immediate and the next part of this, and let's try not to split hairs, but also constitute no more than 2 steps. Those 2 steps can be sideways or forward, but they can't be backwards. And what I mean is a player in a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance who comes out of that stance cannot stand up, step back, and then go low. He can start from a 2-point stance and move sideways or forward, no more than 2 steps, and then go low. It will constitute a release. Well, who can you block? Again, in that first slide, it talks about either the player that's heads up on you or basically in a gap next to
In a
you.
quarter mile, make that right
So
turn.
these players, as you can see, these 2 guys right here, he's kind of on the shoulder. Even if he was lined up right here, either my center or guard, not both of them, because now potentially we could have a high-low, but either one of them is a single block,
The next right turn.
could block this player. Same thing over here. This right here, this player, these guys are big guys, and their stances, their splits are pretty wide. He's inside the free blocking zone. This will be a questionable block if he were to go low on him. In high school, I'm going to say that more than likely it'll be a legal
Right
block.
turn.
So what about the evaluation process? And guys, give me a second so I can do this. Okay. So when we speak about the evaluation process, a couple of things that we want to address tonight is we talked about the umpire's position, and the message that we're going to take back to our associations is, you know, where can the umpires improve their scores, which in turn will improve their crew scores as they're evaluated by the playoff evaluation board. And then on the other side of that, if you're on this call and you are part of the playoff evaluation board, is, you know, what are you looking for in terms of the umpire's performance? What are you going to allow him get away with versus what are you going to call and maybe potentially lower his score? How are you going to increase or lower his score? We'll start with the kicking game. We took a look at quite a number of films last year, and in the kicking game, specifically the free kicks, on free kicks, problems as seen on films were really no movement when you, in terms of umpires coming off the sideline. Coming off the sideline and moving downfield. The mechanics manual says they're supposed to come onto the field and work their way down somewhere about 8 or 10 yards. They're also supposed to come onto the field somewhere in between the numbers and the hash. Most of the time, that is going to be the rule of thumb, where an umpire, after you have a free kick, is going to come onto the field, work his way down 10 yards, and be somewhere in between numbers and hash. It's really dependent on where that ball's kicked. Balls that are going to be kicked away from you, you're going to work your way more towards the hash mark. Balls that are kicked to your side of the field, you're probably going to stay at the numbers. So evaluators, if you have an umpire that's moving downfield and he's in between the numbers and the hash, but let's say he's moving 12 yards downfield, is that something to ding the umpire on? Probably not. You know, it's really all in perspective to the kick. If you have a kick that's going to the 20, to the 10, to the end zone, and he's moving 10 or 12 yards downfield, but he's consistently getting in between the numbers and the hash, and he's in position as it relates to where the kick is. Again, kick's going away from him. He's at the hash, kicks to his side of the field, he's at the numbers. You're not going to dig an umpire for that. What are you looking for on kickoffs that you'll consider lowering his score? Again, that's an umpire that's not moving off the sideline at all. Now, there will be times where an umpire might not move far from the sideline, and that's on pooch kicks. Pooch kicks to his side of the field. The potential for the return to be through him or on his side of the field is greater, so he has to kind of watch where he is in relationship to the kick. Why do we want umpires moving 10 yards downfield and no further than that? Well, through both the NFL and collegiate camps and film, it's shown that once we can get to a position to be stationary, we're much more effective in officiating when the play comes back to us versus running. So when we're running, when we run 10, 15, 20 yards downfield, we may be missing things as we're running. But if we can get to a stationary position and start officiating, we're more likely to see things. What are we looking for? Well, kicks that are a little bit deeper. It's going to be blocking techniques, low blocks, blindside blocks, and things of that nature. And that's where some of the things that, as an umpire, we were missing and stuff. And those are those major impact fouls. This is a slide again showing what we just talked about, how far on the field to come, where to be in position, and what to be looking for. Onside kicks, when we talk about the evaluation process, there's one criteria that that this could be covered under, and that's really special plays. We don't see a lot of onside kicks, but I think to be prepared for an onside kick is important. So during the camps, we'll speak a little bit more in detail about onside kicks and what we're looking for as it relates to, just like this slide says, if the ball's going away from you, the ball's coming towards you. In addition to that, really giving no leeway as it pertains to offsides by K. On a traditional free kick, I'm going to give any of those players, you know, a little bit of leeway and probably not call them offsides. I'm not going to give them a full step or two, but I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially on long kicks, not on an onside kick. Punts, same thing. When we talk about punts and what we're looking for, there's a few things. Positioning is one of them, and being in position about 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. If you're, 11, 12 yards, evaluators, I would not ding an umpire for being in a position of 11 or 12 yards on a punt. I'm more concerned about umpires recognizing numbering restrictions on punts and making sure, in case you have a broken play, he's aware if you have a player that's not supposed to be downfield and they go downfield, center guards, tackles, or whatever they may be, and that he can catch them. But it's observing the blocks at the initial snap and at the punt, and then watching the umpire to make sure that he's not ball watching, but he is allowing the initial wave to get by him, and he's turning and moving downfield towards the end. And that, again, is kind of some of the things that we observed that showed areas that we can improve on. No movement downfield. You have a punt that goes 30, 40, 50 yards, and the umpire turns, and no effort to make his way downfield when everybody's 40 yards away from him. That, and then watching the flight of the ball. Scoring kicks, again, when we talk about field goals and PATs and the relationship between the umpire and in positioning, it says that the side judge is going to pick up on the strong side of the field. He'll come in, and as an umpire, I usually give ground. I don't look and pay attention to, if they have one side stacked to the right or to the left. I'm looking for that side judge to come in, and then I slide over. I want to be positioned where I can see the center and make sure that he's not going to be rough. Looking for, again, blocking techniques and looking for, roughing on that center. And then the side judge would be lined up on the other side, and he's really responsible for his side of the field. We talk about scrimmage downs. We're going to separate scrimmage downs and talk in length about both running plays and passing plays. Before we can determine whether we're going to have a run or a pass, there's a few things that we need to make sure that we're doing consistently. And that's counting the offense, confirming with the referee that we have the count. Again, we're working with teams that are a no huddle, a hurry up offense type of team. We do want our umpires to manage the ball. The mechanics manual says stand over the ball, but what's the definition of standing over the ball? If you work with me, I'm not going to stand directly over the ball unless I think that the center is going to snap the ball, and I want to make sure that he doesn't snap it until we're ready for him to snap it. Typically, I'll be 2 or 3 yards off of the ball and talking to the center to make sure he doesn't snap it until I tell him to snap it. So again, evaluators, if you have an umpire that's, 2 yards off the ball, again, we're waiting for a referee to wave him off. Would not take away from an umpire that's, close in proximity where he can manage that center and make sure that the center is not going to snap the ball. When would you may take off from him? Yeah, if he snaps the ball when he's not supposed to, then that right there might be warranted to take away from that umpire. I do want to reiterate the wave off though. The wave off is used for a couple of different reasons. One of the most important reasons that we're looking for the referee to wave us off is the referee's in position to see the other 6 officials on the field to make sure that they're in position and ready to go before the snap. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bodie. So again, work with your referees, especially in pregame. Y'all determine exactly how you're going to manage that ball, how the referee is going to wave you off, and making sure that the center is not going to snap the ball before it's ready. All right, so some of the things that we're seeing on scrimmage downs, again, our mechanics manual is going to tell us to line up somewhere about 8 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. We're having umpires line 12, 14, 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. We almost have 4 deep judges in some instances. Again, 10 yards probably is a depth that's deep enough for any of us to officiate. 8 yards on the shallow end, but if you are coming in a little bit shorter than 8 yards, that's okay. It's really depending on the down and distance, depending on the situation, what type of team that you're working. Is it a run versus a pass team? And what type of routes are they running? So evaluators, if you see an umpire that's consistently starting to play 12 to 14 yards, then I probably would take points away from him. But if he's moving himself in and out about 8 to 10 yards and varying himself, take a look and see is he doing that because of play, the type of offense that's being ran, and does it make sense for him to be moving, inside maybe 8 yards from time to time. On the other side of that, our mechanics manual tells the umpires to be heads up to the center. I'm telling you, it's almost nearly impossible to stay heads up to the center and to have a good vantage point to see what I need to see between center and guard. So evaluators, if you see an umpire moving left and right, and he's not heads up all the time, again, please don't take points away from that umpire. Allow him the opportunity to get in position to see what he needs to see. And sometimes that's going to be moving to the right or to the left. Okay, here's the big thing. And that's when we're looking at running plays. The first thing that we are looking at as evaluators at the umpires is threats at the line of scrimmage. Are they officiating the line of scrimmage and managing that line of scrimmage effectively? Are they catching the holds that they need to catch, and any other illegal blocking techniques that need to be called? And then sometimes, again, they're going to let them go, depending on the game itself and the situation of the play and stuff. But one of the things that it has been noticed is when umpires officiate the line of scrimmage, the play moves away from them. And when I mean away, I'm halfway to the other side of the field, and they're not turning with the play and moving with the play. Once we see that, once we see that the threat are no more, we want the umpires to move with the play and follow the play. So again, some of the problems that we've seen on film, and some of those are holding calls that really don't need to be called. We're looking for major impacted fouls. If it's a small hold, you probably don't need to make that call, especially if it's away from the play. Chop blocks is another thing that we'll talk about extensively in camp and make sure that the umpires understand what they're looking for. I think over the last couple of years, especially when the umpires moved from the 5 interior linemen to the center and 2 guards, there's a lot of blocks in between the guards and the tackles that are being missed. And let's be honest, it's tough for our wings to catch those. So as an umpire, although it might be said that we have center guard responsibilities, we need to step up our game and make sure that we're watching tackles for blocking techniques as well. And the last thing that hadn't been talked about is umpires that are using that hash as a boundary where they're not going to go outside of that. Work sideline to sideline if the play dictates. Your fellow officials, sometimes they're going to need you to get over there and help them. So between that and retrieving balls, don't be scared to go outside. All right, so passing plays, some of the things, and this is where, as an evaluator, we want to make sure that, hey, Joe, I'll send you this when we're done and stuff. If you remind me, I'll send you the whole presentation so you don't have to take a picture every time, okay? I'll send it to everybody. I'll give everybody my number and contact information at the end and get it out to you and stuff so you can have it. So passing plays, I'm going to speak to this from the evaluator's position first, okay? Because as it's written, and it's kind of confusing in some of the wording that is used when we talk about umpires and when they should and should not turn on passing plays. I think it's the next slide. Let me go to this, okay? So read this. When a pass is thrown, all covering officials in the area must focus on the spot of the catch. That is especially important for the umpire, who must immediately turn in the direction of the pass if the play dictates, okay? So that's out of the mechanics manual right there. it's not evaluators, it's not saying, and umpires too, trainers, take this back to your umpires. It's not saying as an umpire that I need to turn on every pass play. It says if the play dictates. So when is the play going to dictate? Well, if you have a pass that's being thrown 40 yards downfield, I don't care if it's over the center of the field or to the sidelines, the umpire is really ineffective in helping out on a pass that's 40 yards. Me, myself, I'm going to try to turn and help support passes that go over the line of scrimmage and that are thrown no more than 20 to 25 yards. And I only turn when my linemen are not threatened. My linemen come first. You know, that's where I'm best or most useful. Again, when we talk about helping support catch and no catch, and again, as an umpire, we're never going to call OPI, DPI. It's typically catch or no catch. If I have a threat that's in front of me, I'm not going to turn regardless. So as an evaluator, you have a pass that's thrown 20 yards directly over the umpire, but he doesn't turn. Well, you can't say, well, I'm going to ding him because he didn't turn, because you don't know what's he looking at. Really look at that film and see, was there a hold? Was there the potential for a fight? Is there hands to the face or something like that? Because the things that you can't maybe hear is what he may be saying to those players. So again, don't ding an umpire just because he's not turning. When would I ding an umpire? I would take points away from an umpire if he's turning on every single pass play. I mean, if he's giving up the line of scrimmage and he's turning 90, 95, 100% of the time, that's when I would really consider taking points away from the umpire when I'm evaluating them. So again, here's kind of what we've seen. Umpires who turn on every play, on every pass. You know, it's just not a reason to do that, especially with three guys that are deep working. You're more effective and more needed on the line of scrimmage. Goal line plays is another area. And this is 7 yards and in. Some of the things that we're seeing here is umpires start the 3 yard line, and the umpire is trying to still maintain that 8 to 10 yard cushion. Well, tell me if we're starting at the 3 yard line and he's somewhere 2 steps off the back line, how effective he's going to be in helping to make a call on a goal line call if a runner's in or not and stuff. So again, we want to see the umpires a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. Now, on the other side of that, what we're seeing is umpires that are parking themselves right on the goal line. And let's say we're starting right at the 7 or 6 yard line. We have to give up that goal line. We either need to be in front of the goal line or behind the goal line. We can't park ourselves on the goal line. Our wings need that goal line, and they need the clear line of vision to see all the way across and stuff. So, at times we are going to be in the end zone, but as we get closer to the goal line, there's not a reason for us to get deeper in the end zone. More than likely, it's going to be smart for us to get closer to the goal line. Too deep in the end zone, not coming to the line of scrimmage as play dictates, standing on the goal line. The other things, again, remember 7 and in, the responsibilities change from that line judge or head line judge to the umpire as it relates to the downfield, the passer, whether he throws that ball beyond the line of scrimmage. And then we also need to know if that ball is caught behind or beyond the line of scrimmage. So then the last thing, and this is really, I'll be honest with you, it's difficult to see when we talk about evaluating film. Typically we're seeing live ball action. We'll get a foul report. We'll know that we have, a face mask or a blindside block, or we have, double fouls or something of that sort. but we don't see the actual administration of the penalty. The things that we are and we're looking for is the umpire marking it off on the appropriate spot, not at the sideline, but inside where he's supposed to be. Did he, on an incomplete pass, did he go back to the previous spot, or is he cheating? Things of that nature. So it's important. Now, again, I want the umpires to communicate with the referee and the other officials in determining, especially on when you have multiple flags down, that you're enforcing that penalty correctly. When we're not doing that and we make assumptions of what the penalty might be, we kind of get in trouble. So I want to take a few minutes, and again, when we get into the camps this year, we're going to talk about the grading rubrics and the values of the grading rubrics. Again, as trainers and as umpires, I think it's important that we understand as an umpire and as a crew potentially working our way to work a state championship, how we're being graded and stuff, and what the approach of the playoff evaluators are as they're watching films. So as you can see right here, there's actually 10 areas that we're graded on, either individually or collectively as a crew. And most of it's collectively as a crew, but again, it's on each one of those 10 different matrix, each of us has our own part in how the score is tabulated. So you can see right here, the highest you can get is a 5, the lowest you can get is a 1. So, well, what does that mean? I mean, for me, when I watch film, I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. When they start, I'm going to say, hey, you're a 3. Show me on film why you're a 4 or a 5. And I'm going to be honest with you, you got to be a damn good umpire or a damn good official to get a 5. Performance was flawless or nearly flawless. I don't know how many of you can say that you worked a flawless game. I try to work a game that's flawless, but more than likely, the games that I work are not going to be flawless. Superior, yes. I don't want to leave that field unless I have a superior game. But flawless or exemplary, that's really head and shoulders above everybody else. So for me, everybody's going to start at a 3. I'm going to try to watch film and see if I can get them up to that 4, and in some cases maybe that 5. And I'm going to see how I need to average that into the other factors when we talk about a crew specifically and stuff, and I'm going to show you those in just a second. I don't know how many of y'all have seen this, but this is kind of how we are graded and stuff. If you get a 1, I'll be honest with you, it's really tough to get a 1. Although I've seen some scores that were in the high 1s and low 2s, and we just have to work better as umpires to make sure that we get 3s and 4s. But let's talk a little bit about the actual grading and what we look at. So we look at the mechanics of the entire crew, the ability to work together, maintain a mobile box, signals, and all of that and stuff. So this is an overall crew score. So again, training umpires, I want the umpires to score those 4s and 5s because maybe they can help bring their crew up. When you look at it, and let me go back up here. Multiple minor issues. Performance was average to be playoff qualified. I want everybody to work their way a little bit higher than that into those 4s and 5s. And I think as an umpire, if we can do our part, then it's going to help the overall crew score. Next thing, again, we look at position specific. We'll look at the referee. Where are they lining up, positioning? How do they move on the field? And I think where we need to get a little bit more consistent as evaluators, because I've had the feedback from referees where one evaluator will say a referee moves too much on the field, and then you'll have another evaluator says that referee's not moving, and you're watching the same film. So how can you have one evaluator say one thing about, and that's 180-degree difference about the referee and stuff. So how much should a referee move? They should be moving with the play. At times they're not going to move with the play, but we need to understand when they need to move and when they don't. So a lot of this right here is again pre-snap, coverage on your pass and run plays, and again moving with the plays as appropriate. Wings, the same thing. Positioning, keys, movement as the play develops. Same thing with deeps. So the mechanics manual, the 7-man mechanics manual is going to tell us some of the things we need to do, some of the things that we don't need to do, and we need to follow along as best we can. The next area is, kickings, kickoffs, punts, field goals, and tries. Positioning, making sure you're watching your keys, and movement as play develops. Goal line mechanics, same thing. Who's got the goal line? Who's got the back line? Or are officials communicating with each other, making the proper movement? Are they going to the goal line when it dictates? Is our umpire moving to the line of scrimmage when he needs to? Are we moving to the outside? Are we giving the appropriate signals? Things of that nature. So this is what I was speaking about a little bit earlier in exceptional plays. There's fumble recoveries, interceptions, other things. We're grading now. Guys that are doing evaluations and stuff, you may go through a whole game and there's not any exceptional plays. There's nothing wrong. If you watch a game film and you say there really wasn't anything exceptional, it might have been just a vanilla game and nothing really special happened. So I wouldn't be grading a crew up or down or even giving them a grade if there really was nothing exceptional that happened in the game itself. And then again, foul recognition and penalty administration, although sometimes a little bit difficult to see, but that is another part, because most of this is dead ball officiating that as evaluators we're kind of looking at to make sure it's done the correct way. And here, this is the big thing, and that's how the crew changes as the game changes, as the game evolves. Games that get out of hand, are they still out there, following every little thing that they see? Are they able to manage the game and make sure that they're not the potential for fights to break out? Just how well do they work in a game that's out of hand? And that's really everything. I'll let everybody take their mics off mute and ask questions as they would like.
Yes, I have a question real quick, Mr. Underwood.
Yes, sir.
My name is Sabir Holmes. I'm with CCOA. I would like to ask the question, when you all are evaluating film and watching the film, let's say, like, are you watching frame by frame or play by play? how many instances this umpire may be out of position. Like like one play, umpire may be at 10 yards on the first down play, or he might have caught that and said, "Oh man, I'm at 10 yards. Let me readjust myself." In the rest of the game, his depth has changed to the correct 7 to 9 yard depth. Like, are y'all watching that, or y'all just saying, "Hey, oh, he's at 10 yards. I'm gonna give him a 2,"
No,
like
that's
on one play?
yeah, no, that's a good question, and let me tell you, because again, tonight we should have about 20 of the playoff evaluators on this call. I'm gonna I'm gonna make an assumption that you're a trainer with CCOA, and you know, it's a great question because that's what we can't do. We can't just watch one or two plays and come up with an evaluation based off of one play. So as an evaluator, you know, we should be watching the majority of the game. You know, we want to see how patterns form and stuff. You know, it goes back to the point I made earlier and stuff. You know, if our mechanics manual says that he's supposed to be 8 to 10 yards and he's not lining up 8 to 10 yards, well, let's look and see, is there a reason why he's not lining up 8 to 10 yards? Maybe he's lining up closer to 7 to 8 yards, okay? But maybe it's the team that, you know, he's officiating for that night. Again, when they're lining up way too deep, at 12 and 14, 15 yards, I think that's when the umpires are going to get dinged. But if they're moving around the field and, you know, I'd really try to stray umpires from getting deeper than 10 yards, but, you know, 7 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, and they're moving left and right of the center and everything, then no, an umpire shouldn't be getting dinged because of those movements.
I have one more question to add to that, or um, yeah, one more question, more so about the evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
What's the overall philosophy that the people that are evaluating have? Because it seems like all the evaluators have a specific philosophy as to how they evaluate uh, referees in the games. I've heard things as far as uh, you know, it has to be big on film. I've seen, you know, some people evaluate and say, "Hey, I just care about what position you are on the field." So is the philosophy as to how GHSA going to come together and say, "This is the philosophy. This is what we want to see in every film," because it's like a roll the dice. You don't know who's going to watch your film because you don't know, you're at the mercy of the philosophy of the individual who's evaluating you. So is the philosophy as to how everyone is going to get evaluated going to come together and say, okay, we all can agree that this is the checkbox, this is what we train, this is how we do it, and we're going to stick to it because these are the stipulations, this is the standard of procedure as to how we evaluate our crews in the playoffs?
Rob, let me answer that question real quick.
Go for it, James.
The philosophy and the reason we're having this call tonight is to follow the mechanics. If you're following the mechanics as in the 7-man manual in the playoffs, then you'll be fine. That's the whole thing we're trying to get through to everybody. The philosophy is, are they following the mechanics? Are they in the proper position? Do they make the right calls? Though you get those things right, you're in the right position, you get the right calls, and you have good judgment, you should be good. That's the philosophy. That's the problem. Yeah, you're right. That's the problem we've had, is everybody's using their own little thing. And what we're telling everybody is, the philosophy is, are they in the right position? Do they make the right calls? And do they use good judgment?
Sabir,
Sounds good. I have one more thing. I'm sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Let me add to what James just said right there. And that's one of the reasons that we've added to, over the last couple of years, we've been making this product better each year. And I think as we get into this year, into the postseason, you'll see that the product that's out there is going to be a better product. Again, you know, by having the evaluators sit through you know, the programs for the next week, and then we're going to put together a training for them specifically, because we want to get everybody a little bit more consistent. We want, you know, just what we're saying. If I do something one way, we don't want an evaluator to say, oh, he's wrong for doing that, and he's going to get dinged. And the same evaluator watching me on the same game say, oh, he did a great job and stuff. We want that consistency. We want to get everybody together. But just like James says, where that starts is to make sure that the message gets out through the trainers and through us in the camps this summer and teaching umpires that they understand, you know, this is, you know, follow these mechanics, do these things on the field, and you should score high. Then we're ahead of the game.
I agree with that. And also I understand that the mechanics also explain, you know, if you go by the mechanics and your position is correct on the field, then chances are high that you will be able to, you know, see, you'll have the right view that you need to have in order to make the correct calls and have the right view as plays progress each down on the field. Also, when the evaluators are watching film, are well, here's my question: can it be considered that you can watch an umpire adjust himself on the field? Yes, he has the correct depth. He's watching his keys, and then you never know. Sometimes it's a big, oversized nose guard that lines up over the center, and you can't see the ball. So now that umpire may have to move just a little bit, move a little bit to the left, move a little bit to the right, just in order to see the ball. And sometimes a person can look at that and say, why is he moving so much? Like, do those things, are those things considered when evaluators are watching the film?
Well, again, it gets back to, you know, the evaluators, and one of the things that we're trying to get to a point where it's more objective and not subjective to opinions. But, you know, it's not where an evaluator, you know, says to himself, I think he should have. It doesn't matter really what you think. It's, you know, should he have done that or not? You know, was he in the right position? Is he being consistent on the field, and not just use one or two plays as a basis to judge, you know, any position on the field and stuff. Watch the games, see how he does collectively throughout the game and stuff to make sure he's not making any major errors.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering my question, guys. I appreciate it.
I got it. Hope to see you this summer.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you.
Just to add on top of that, I would just say, as somebody who's looked at a lot of film, as long as you're not moving around at the snap, would be one thing right there. I mean, you need to be set at the snap, and you're in the range of where you're supposed to be. I mean, there's nothing specifically that says you have to be this yard line at that. There's a range there that you can adjust as you need to during the game. So I wouldn't worry about that. And that's one of the reasons we're having these discussions, is so the evaluators can be a part of this and hear these discussions. And these are great questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ezzy. Thank you, Kenny, and Rob. Good to see you again too. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I do want to add, when we get into the camps this year, the presentation that was given tonight, again, the target audience was the playoff evaluators and the trainers. And I apologize, when we get into the camps, this presentation will be much more lengthy, not just an hour that we had tonight to share with you, but there'll be film that we'll incorporate into the presentation to show, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly and stuff. So the guys, the umpires that come to the camp will have a better understanding of, you know, what we're looking for and where are some of the deficiencies that we've noticed the last year and areas that we can improve.
You'll have to take yourself off mute again if you have a question.
Mr. Underwood, I have a question.
Yes, sir, Kenny.
I think you mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to be clear on it, that new rule, right, about low blocking from any position. Does it matter if the quarterback is under the center or not under the center, maybe in a shotgun or a pistol? Does it matter?
This year, it does not matter. A quarterback can be under center or in a shotgun formation. As long as the block is immediate and there's no more than 2 steps from that blocker, then you're going to have a legal block when we talk about blocking below the waist. Again, we don't want to watch him backing up and then shooting low, but if his movement side to side or forward, no more than 2 steps against somebody that's heads up or in the gaps, we don't want him shifting down, 2 or 3 gaps to make the block. And I think if he is going to go after somebody that's a couple of gaps down, he's going to probably be moving more than 2 steps anyways. Excuse me, but good question. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're in shotgun, whether they're in under center. Doesn't matter if that offensive lineman is in 2-point stance, 3-point stance, 4-point stance. Anybody else?
Rob, this is Joe. I just wanted to ask about this slide that you said that I can reach out to you and you'll get it to me.
Yeah, guys, let me go ahead and for those of you who'd like, and I'll have to talk to James and stuff when we're going to actually make them public to everybody and stuff, but I'll be more happy to share this with you and stuff. And if you want to, guys, if you have any questions, I'll give you my number right now. It's 404-502-2653. Don't call me to beat me up about something. But if you have, a question that you need an answer to, I'll be more happy to answer any of your questions. And you can send me emails at gfoaofficials@gmail.com.
We'll put this on the GHSA football training website, so you can download it off that.
Yeah, this is Ryan from LFOA. I just got a question about the evaluation process. No matter what grades you got received, whether it be a 1 through 5, a lot of times there's no notes explaining why you got a 4 or why you didn't get a 5 or vice versa. What's the thought process on improving that?
Yeah, that's something, again, that we want more thorough comments, especially if you're getting high scores and low scores. Really, if you're getting whatever score it is, the more feedback we can get as officials, the better that we'll become. I'll give you from past experience. I was given a low score, but the comments was great job. Okay. That doesn't help me as an official, where I get a low score and the comments great job. So yeah, we want to get more feedback, more thorough feedback, and that's what our expectations. Kevin's expectations is as of the evaluators this year.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, as this process, we've talked about this process and the problems last year. We've addressed a couple of things where there's some evaluators who are not back from last year. Plus, there will be stress to the evaluators. If you're going to mark somebody one way or the other, you need to have comments there, and that's part of this training to see, to reiterate. I can't even say it. I drank too much today. Reiterate that you have to have comments in there. You're not making anybody better by just giving no comment or saying great job but marking you as a 2.
Hey, this is Andy Benton from ICFOA. Are we looking at potentially, Huddle has the ability to edit. So you can insert comments, you can draw arrows and point out things. So instead of like some of the comments that have been made in the evaluations, which have been very vanilla, you can draw on those things when you send those videotapes back so people can actually look at them and share them and give them back to the association training as well.
Well, Andy, I'll be honest with you, we really haven't discussed using Huddle in that way. I mean, it's a great idea. I guess it's something that we could discuss and see if it's something we can put to use and everything. I would just like this, us to take I guess, small steps forward. And the first thing that I want to see is just a little bit more thorough explanation of how we're coming up with, our grades by evaluators.
And if you say, like, if I had that film on my Huddle account or the Georgia High School account, let's say we mark that up. If we traded that with your group, you lose all those things. It doesn't transfer.
Okay.
Rob and James, this is Joe Rice. Can I comment on that a little bit?
Yes, sir, Joe.
Okay, so first of all, the evaluators are going to be asked to key comments as much as possible to a specific huddle play. And so when the feedback comes, and the timeliness of that is going to be improved this year. When that feedback comes, you'll be able to look at a play number that is associated with a comment if the evaluators have done as they're asked to do. So that will go a long way towards dealing with this issue. And the other issue is if you have multiple people trying to do edits inside of a video, you're prejudicing somebody with the first guy's comments. We want independent evaluations. So everybody's evaluation is independent. They're seeing different things. And that's to be expected. We're trying to make it as objective as possible, but there's a degree of subjectivity that's unavoidable for this.
Okay. Anybody else? Again, guys, if you have any questions as we get closer into the season, as we get into the camps this year, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. As we get a couple of these under our belt and we get closer to the camps, again, it's the goal of the training committee and the evaluation committee, the film review committee, is to get better and to be able to provide you with better, more consistent feedback. And hopefully that's what we're going to see this year. James, anything else?
Yeah, this is William Jones from HOA. On the evaluators side, I'm just asking this question. Y'all give us a lot of film to evaluate, and y'all give us a short amount of time to do it. Now, I get it. Everybody want more and more and more, but are y'all going to extend us more time to give that more and more and more?
Unfortunately, the timing, I don't think it's going to change because of the commitment and restrictions that we have to get those things graded, especially, to have everybody, when we start to make cuts, when Kevin and GHSA starts to make cuts, we just don't have a lot of time in between getting that film typically on a Friday and needing to get those evaluations in, which I think usually fall on a Sunday and everything, Sunday or Monday and stuff. In the earlier rounds, we get a little additional time, but towards the latter rounds, we don't have as much time. What I would say is reach out to Keith, and if you can only commit to doing 1 or 2 films, just let him know and he'll work with you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Nobody else has any questions. I think we'll call that an evening. I appreciate everybody joining tonight. I'm sure some of you will see. I think our next one is, James, is it today's Tuesday, Thursday night, the 3rd?
Yeah, the next one is the referee session Thursday night at 7:30. I think you all got the invites for that also. And if you're a trainer for association, same way. Again, thank you for joining us tonight and beginning this process to hopefully make everybody a little better, get everybody ready for the season.
Great. Thank you, James. All right, everybody, have a great evening. We'll see you this summer at camps, and good luck this year.